Welcome along to the Matchbook Weekend Football Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey. Joining me is just Adrian Clarke this week. Rest assured, Mark O'Hare will be back ready to go next week. But yeah, Adrian, it's just the two of us.
They should play the music. Just the two of us. So we just have a little chinwag, can't we? I mean, it's going to be quite easy for you to pick the pick the choices this week, unless you're tipping up any yourself, of course. I mean, you can always chip in.
Something might come to me naturally that I might go, you know what, Adrian, you're way off there. I think this will happen. So,
no, I shan't take offence, Dan. It's fine. Yeah.
It's pity we don't have anything to talk about like last night or anything like that to cover before we get into it, Adrian, which is good.
No interest in talking through. I've spent most this morning talking through what went on last night. It just wasn't to be, was it, for the English teams? Arsenal just came up short. I think it's a slight lack of experience, slight lack of depth, and absolutely fatigue. Second half again, really, really tired, wasn't it? So, should have buried Bayern in the first leg and paid a price for it, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. I think lost in the first leg, and look, Madrid were fantastic defending against Manchester. And I do think, Adrian, we'll get on to City in general, but like people are very quick to dismiss a really good defensive performance. Like that was Madrid's game plan. Game state also meant they had to defend for the whole game. So those stats are a little bit skewed, I think, and it's not really talked about enough, I think.
No, look, they've got a very good defence. I think I mentioned it on the Champions League podcast. 20 goals conceded all season in La Liga. That's really impressive. Arsenal have the best record here with 26. So, that it puts that into perspective. Only lost one game all season. But Real Madrid, what really impressed me about that is the fact that Real Madrid don't play that way hardly ever. Because they're the team that normally has the ball. They're the team that's expected to go and win games. So to go against what they're used to in terms of style and to be so good at it in terms of keeping City at arm's length, I think is worthy of a lot of respect. Says a lot about the coaches, says a lot about the character of the players. And it says a lot about their credentials to win the competition. And for me, I know they are favourites, but yeah, I think they're quite strong favourites now.
Okay, yeah, we'll get into that in the Champions League podcast. But yeah, I think Jude Bellingham's interview was brilliant afterwards when he said Manchester City are more structured than us. We play a little bit off the cuff, and we feel that can be an advantage coming up against a team like that. So yeah, thought it was superb. Thought, look, bias aside and all that, I thought it was a really good week of Champions League action. And we're here with a Premier League preview. We're going to preview 3 games in the Premier League, but we're going to start with the 2 Wembley FA Cup semi-finals, Manchester City versus Chelsea and Coventry City versus Manchester United. All we ask, if you're listening on the stream, either live or afterwards, hit that like button and subscribe completely for free, and do see the comments coming in there. Much appreciated. Let's start with Manchester City versus Chelsea. So it's good that if you're listening on the podcast, get your concept around the times this week. It's going to be 5:15 kickoff at Wembley. Manchester City, Chelsea 166 favourites to Chelsea, who are 5.5. The draw is 4.5. Both teams to score, yes, favourite in that market as usual. 169 the price this time. The Asian handicap line sees Chelsea get a 1-goal head start at 188. The total here 3.5, but unders is favoured at 162. So look, City, all I would say with them coming off the Champions League defeat is Pep Guardiola has rallied the troops before and produced brilliant performances post getting knocked out of a Champions League.
Oh yeah, and that could happen again. Of course it could. Manchester City are a brilliant team. You got to look at the bench as well and say that their bench is going to be phenomenal at Wembley, and Chelsea's is going to be pretty skinny. I think at last game, Chilwell and Badiashile were the sort of only senior players on the bench. So, although I think they'll have 1 or 2 back for this game, but yeah, there's a big difference there. But when I think about this game, I think it's going to be close. That's my overriding feeling. I don't see City smashing Chelsea here. Even though Chelsea haven't had a good season, they're probably in their best spot of the campaign so far in terms of form, in terms of confidence. Obviously, that 6-0 spanking of Everton was pretty impressive. They've got arguably the division's most informed player. Actually, it's not arguable. He is in Cole Palmer. So I think Chelsea can go into this game believing they'll be competitive, and they were competitive in the league games, and that's why I'm going to reluctantly oppose Manchester City. It's not something I do lightly, but I quite like Chelsea on the handicap here because both games were draws in the Premier League, 4-4, absolute thriller earlier on in the season, where City got lucky. They got a very fortuitous penalty when Cucurella was actually being fouled by Haaland, and the referee gave it the other way. VAR didn't intervene, and also the deflected goal from Rodri as well. So really, they could easily have lost that game, City. And then at the Etihad, Chelsea were brilliant, actually. Great game plan. Defended well, countered at real speed, which is something they can do. And they've also got good ball winners. We know that in the middle of the pitch with Enzo and Gallagher and Caicedo. They can turn over possession and attack quickly. And as we know, that is the way to undo City. There's not many ways to undo them, but that is the way. So I think stylistically, it's a decent match up there. So yeah, Chelsea +1 was interesting to me, Daniel. And it's 1.88. Obviously, you need City to win by 2 goals for us to not get any, for us to lose our money. This bet, Chelsea +1, this will surprise you, and it will surprise our viewers and listeners. This bet has only lost twice in the last 11 meetings between Chelsea and Manchester City. There's been a lot of close games between these two teams. Last year, there were 2 cup games, actually. A League Cup game where Chelsea heavily rotated, lost 2-0 at the Etihad. And there was an FA Cup game where Chelsea lost 4-0. They got beaten up, really. But again, it was at the Etihad. So, this is at Wembley. Always a bit of a leveller. City haven't always been at their very best underneath the arch. Chelsea were the better side in the League Cup final and ended up losing. But I just think they can potentially take it to extra time here. Maybe win it, but potentially take it to extra time. But this bet covers a lot of options, even narrow City wins where we get our money back.
Yeah, of course. And if it heads to extra time and City eventually do win, we still get paid, of course. My ears do prick up when I do hear stylistically it suits Adrian, because that's so important. Given there's clearly Manchester City are better than Chelsea, but those matchups this season compared to other matchups is probably more relevant than usual. So yeah, I think we're happy to lock in that Chelsea +1.0.
Yeah, it's just certain teams, and Poch has lost a lot of games against Guardiola, but I believe
Who hasn't?
Yeah, exactly. But I think he's also won quite a few, and at Spurs he had some good results against them, with PSG as well. So he knows the manager, and yeah, I do think, even though I've had massive criticism of Chelsea's midfielders this year, they haven't clicked at all, but they do have ball winners, and if you've got ball winners against City and quick forwards and players like Palmer who can hurt you, then those turnovers and transitions can be really, really important. So yeah, look, City are obviously favourites for a reason, and also there's a part now that the treble's off. Surely Pep prioritises the Premier League, so there might be an element of rotation here, especially after extra time in midweek. So they might not face City's 18 underneath the arch either.
Yeah, Saturday's the 5:15 and then Thursday night's their next game. But yeah, still 4 days turnaround there. So if he is going to rotate, it's probably here. And I know he won't not admit it, but I think he will. He is going to be obsessed with that 4 in a row, which will break the Premier League record. And let's go to the other semi-finals. So look, let's say Chelsea do get the victory. Manchester United fans will get very excited, because I know, speaking to a lot of them, they just don't want to play Manchester City in an FA Cup final. But before all that happens, they got to beat Coventry City, who are priced that they have a squeak here. Coventry 6.2, Manchester United 154, draw 5.2. That's the 90-minute match odds. Both teams to score, yes, 1.6 is the current favourite there. Coventry City are getting a 1-goal head start in the Asian handicap line, and the total for this game is set at 3.5, but unders is 176. Look, it's great having yourself on, Adrian. You have a good grasp of both the EFL and the Premier League. So for those listeners not too familiar with Coventry, apart from maybe last season's run, share a little bit about them, and then have they got a squeak going into this game?
Well, they got a very good manager in Mark Robins, who is famous for sort of saving Sir Alex Ferguson's job as a player back in the day. But yeah, he's a real good tactician. They They score goals. They're the highest scorers in this season's FA Cup. We saw that with the thrilling win against Wolves at Molineux in the last round. They got Ellis Sims, who's he's a big target man striker. He used to be at Everton. He is really on fire at the moment. And they've got a guy called Haji Wright, American international, plays off the left side of their attack, who's a really powerful runner as well. And he scores a lot of goals. So they've got those two. Then you've got a couple of good playmakers, Casey Palmer and Callum O'Hare. So there's a lot of quality there in terms of the final third. And Robbins is a good organizer. They can play both ways. They can keep the ball, but I tend to think Coventry, especially in this game, will play on the counter. Something they did really, really well last year when Victor Gyökeres was leading the line for them. So, yeah, the difference between the Championship and the Premier League is pace. That's the big difference. So I think, and United have got a quick forward line: Rashford, Garnacho, Højlund. So I think you'll see Coventry defend quite deep in this game, look to frustrate, but then they'll break through the lines quite effectively. And I think they'll have some good moments in the match. Every part of me wants to go with Coventry here. Every part of me, but they're a bit short for a Championship side against Manchester United. I think the price is a bit skinny. We're going to get to Wolves-Arsenal, but Wolves at home to tired Arsenal are 9.0. Yet Coventry of the Championship, against Manchester United, a price up at 6 point something, wasn't it? For the
6.2.
Yeah. So I was looking at what can I get Coventry plus 1.5, but it's not really achievable. It's really, really small in terms of the price. So yeah, I'm going to go with Manchester United reluctantly because you can't trust them. But this is a big cheese of the Premier League against a Championship outfit. This is a stage that the players have been used to playing on. Coventry less so, even though they're in the playoff final last season. This is a stage that they're comfortable with, and they have the better players, and they also have that pace in forward areas. And Bruno Fernandes, in fairness to him, is playing very well at the moment, and I think this is the kind of occasion where he will have to step up to the plate for Manchester United and deliver. Yeah, Coventry aren't in the best of form, actually. They've lost 3 of their last 4, maybe distracted by this. Who knows? But they're sort of fading in their race for the playoffs. They conceded a lot of goal. One clean sheet in their last 9 matches, Coventry City. So it gives me the feeling that United will score. They've conceded 15 in their last 9. And for all their problems defensively, Manchester United, they can always score goals. We've seen that in a lot of wild matches of late. It's been crazy, really, the matches that they've been involved in. So, yeah, this will be less wild, but I do think Manchester United should win it. I don't think it will be completely one-sided. I give Coventry a realistic prospect of creating chances, maybe scoring a goal. But Manchester United to ultimately win. I'm thinking Coventry 1, Manchester United 2, or Coventry 1, Manchester United 3. And that covers Manchester United and over 2.5 goals. Obviously, it covers the 3-0 and above as well, doesn't it? So, yeah, you can get that at 2.02. Yeah, that's the pick for me. If Coventry were playing a little bit better in the Championship, I might have taken them on a handicap. But I'm a little bit wary of that, and I think United should prevail here. But it wouldn't be the shock of the century, let's be honest, if Cov pulled off an upset.
Yeah, again, this podcast would work better if I was really wanted to disagree with you there, but it was my initial reaction looking at the price that I just think Manchester United is world-class players. I think there's times to fade United later on in the season, and they're even playing Sheffield United at home during midweek. I think that's a time maybe to get a goals angle on Sheffield United rather than taking, for example, but I do think they'll be too strong, and I do think the likes of Bruno Fernandes are playing very well at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I was looking at United's record against the bottom 6 in the Premier League. So if Coventry were a Premier League side, they'd probably be in the bottom 6. They're probably not as good as the most of the teams in the bottom 6, even though I like them as a team. Man United have had 7 wins, 1 draw, and 1 defeat against the bottom 6 in the Premier League this season. So actually, even though we like to take the mickey out of them. They've actually got the job done against most of the underdogs at the highest level, and they should really do it here at the weekend.
Yeah, I think compensated with a decent price, perhaps. United over 2.5 goals in the match. That is 2-0 the selection for Asian, and Chelsea +1 on the Asian handicap line in the other FA Cup semi-final. Looking forward to the two of them. Sprinkled around all that is Premier League action, so we'll start. I don't really like these mixed weekends, but I do understand to get the season done. But I'll digress there and move on to Wolves versus Arsenal. 7:30 kickoff on Sky. This was obviously going to be a 5:30 Saturday night football kickoff. Wolves 9.0, as Adrian mentioned. We'll get to that in a second. Arsenal 141 favourites. The draw 5.3. Arsenal drifting a little bit after last night's result. Both teams to score. Yes, it's a slight favourite in that market at 196. Wolves are getting a 1.25 goal head start at above even money, 206. The total here is 2.5 overs, 166. So expecting goals nonetheless. Arsenal's probably one of their best performances of this last season was in this game just after City lost to Brentford. I'm struggling to be as confident going into this game. It's going to be they're a tough opponent, Wolves, aren't they? Gary O'Neill's a tricky operator, and despite their injuries, you'd really fancy him to put a good performance in.
Yeah, I think it's a really tricky game for Arsenal. They've got some sort of games against bigger clubs to come, but I think this is just as hard for them, especially after travelling to Munich. Think about the schedule. They would have come back today on Thursday, not really done anything. They'll turn up for training on Friday, do a little bit of a session, and then they'll probably travel to the Midlands, and then it's game day. So really not much of a turnaround. It's another away match as well, of course. So lots of travelling, not much prep time, and Wolves have had their feet up, haven't they? Prepping for this for a while. It's a tough game for Arsenal over there in Munich as well. They look really tired second half. Look like a lot of the players look like they're running on empty. So it's a game that worries me. Arsenal should win it. Of course they should. The better side, but I don't think it's by any means a gimme. And Gary O'Neill has bloodied a few noses this season, hasn't he? At Molineux, beat City earlier on in the campaign, beat Tottenham Hotspur a little bit later on in the season. They've beaten Chelsea. They've drawn at home to Villa and Newcastle. They gave Liverpool a proper scare. There's only two, 3 second half goals that stopped that happening. So I think it's a tough game. And I think Wolves, the price on Wolves is borderline ludicrous, really. So with that in mind, I want to do it, but I'm going to go with Wolves plus 1.5 goals. Still covers the Arsenal win. But if Arsenal win by 1 goal, we still got our money, don't we? So this is a lot of scorelines. So you get the draw, you get any kind of Wolves win, and you even, you even get a narrow Arsenal victory on side. So there's a ton of results here that get us paid out. This bet, by the way, in a very good season for Arsenal, particularly away from home, where we've seen 5 real handsome away wins for Arsenal this season. But in 11 of Arsenal's 16 away games, this bet lands. So there's a few draws in there. There's a lot of 1-goal victories. There's a few defeats as well. So yeah, I don't think this is a gimme at all, especially with Cunha back fit and available for Wolves. Good player. And Wolves are very athletic. They can run all day. They've got lots of powerful runners that they're quick. It's not what you want to play. It's not the sort of team you want to play when you're feeling a little bit fatigued. So yeah, Arsenal are going to have to play really well, I think, to control the game and to win it. They can, but it won't be easy.
And before we move on, will they rotate at all? Like the likes of Aka looks spent, a few other players in that category. I thought the 2 centre backs probably need a rest, but Arsenal probably can't afford to do that. So any rotation?
I'd have to. I think you'd have to. Because they look so tired. You've got to trust some of the other guys. Who you rotate that's up to Arteta. I'm not going to tell him what to do, but with Chelsea around the corner, it's another tight turnaround.
It's Tuesday. Yeah, that's not a good schedule.
It's a very bad schedule for Arsenal. Chelsea in the form that they're in. I think there has to be 2 or 3 changes at least from Arsenal in this game. But that doesn't bother me. That actually doesn't concern me. They're good. In fact, I would welcome it in a way, because I think that some of the players are juiced out a little bit. So yeah, fascinating match this. I think Arsenal can do it, but I can't hand on heart back them to win the game. I think that the more sensible play here is on Wolves on that big handicap.
Yeah, big handicap, as Adrian alluded to and explained there, +1.5. You bet will win if Wolves win or draw, but also covers that 1 goal Arsenal win, 182. So you're getting big match odds. Reduce that to a sizable bet on an Asian handicap line. You're getting a lot of score lines on side. This is probably the biggest game of the weekend, even though it's FA Cup semi-final weekend. It's the financial fair play derby, as my producer Ryan was alluding to there. There's other ways you could describe it as well. Everton 2-12 favourites. Nottingham Forest, who are playing well recently, 385. Draws available at 3-7. Both teams to score, yes, 179. The Asian handicap line, Forest are going to get a half goal start at 187. 2.5's the total, and this is pretty much 50-50. Like the good old days, this is priced up like the good old 2.5 days, Adrian, and that's where you're playing in that market.
I am, yeah. Someone described this as the classic 10-pointer, obviously referencing the deduction. So I think that's a really good way to describe it. Yeah, it's huge. Everton just got walloped by Chelsea. So what's their priority? It's to be secure at the back. They're going to have to concentrate hard on that. Potentially no Jared Branthwaite as well. I think he went off injured, didn't he, at the bridge? So he's a doubt. I think there'll be a heavy focus on keeping a clean sheet from Everton. And from Forest's point of view, with the away record that they've got, with their weak back four, and it is a weak back four, they've got to protect it, haven't they? And they might take a draw here, but they certainly want to look to hang in there and maybe nick this with a narrow wing. So they've got Wood and Gibbs White that can maybe nick them a goal, and they did win, didn't they, at Newcastle earlier on in the season? They had one other away win as well. It escapes me that they produced, but on the road they've not been wholly convincing, have they, since they came back up to the Premier League? Nottingham Forest, not too many wins, so I can't back Forest. I can't back Everton. Everton have scored more than 1 goal once in their last 15 games, and that was against Spurs in that 2-2 draw where they basically played corner ball against Vicario. So yeah, I can't really back either side here, but I do feel that it will be low scoring. Under 2.5 really screams at me. If Everton do win at home, the last 10 wins at home have all come with a clean sheet. So if they let one in, they don't win, because they don't score more than one very often. But they'll get the odd 2-0, I guess. Interestingly, looking at Forest away from home against 9th or below, 6 of their away games, 6 of the 8 have gone unders. So a lot of tight games away from home against the non-big boys in the Premier League. And for Everton, it's a similar story. At home to teams 9th or below, 5 of 8 home games have gone unders this season. And with so much at stake, no one wanting to make a mistake, both desperate for a clean sheet. I think it's low scoring. So under 2.5 is my pick here.
Yeah, again, finding it hard to struggle. If I was siding with any team, maybe Forest, because I think Everton are in real trouble. But yeah, I do think both teams will take a draw. If you wanted to go further than that, 0-0 is best price on the Match for Betting Exchange, 13.5 at the moment, which seems a point or two bigger than I thought it was. I don't know what you think, Adrian, but
0-0 is a decent shout, actually, or 1-0. Yeah, it's a big weekend for Luton, obviously at home to Brentford. I think with these two playing, that really is a must win. And if they don't win, then a draw isn't so bad for these two teams.
Yeah.
Mike, I can't hear you, Dan.
Can you believe that? When it's the two of us, I'm after muting myself for the first time in about 3 months. I was rambling on about the kickoff time. So that is 1:30. Luton chance to put massive pressure on Everton and Forest. They're playing at 3 o'clock on Saturday. That game is 1:30 on Sunday. 3:30 we've got Coventry United. And then 4:30, Fulham versus Liverpool. So you'll have to double screen this one. Let's take a look at the betting that we have on matchbook.com. You can back Fulham 6.0, underdogs to Liverpool 157. We're recording this before the Atalanta game. Just to heads up, draw is 5.0. The Asian, both teams to score yes is 152. The Asian handicap line sees Fulham get a 1-goal head start, and the total for this game is currently set at 3.5. And unders is only slight favourite at 187. So, look, that Liverpool Palace game, Adrian, I'm caught in two minds because I thought Palace did enough to get something out of the game the way they played. And it's easy to feed into the narratives, but Liverpool should have won the game.
Oh yeah, and they created a bundle of chances, didn't they? They just didn't bring their shooting boots, and that's been a bit of an issue, I guess, for them last couple of games. But yeah, they're guaranteed wherever they go, Liverpool home or away, they're going to create plenty of chances, and they will at Craven Cottage, no doubt about that. But Fulham aren't a Mickey Mouse team. They're decent this year, and they won at West Ham, didn't they, recently, and they've had some stonking home performances. I watched them batter Spurs really convincingly. They deservedly beat Arsenal earlier on in the season. If Fulham are on it, and you don't know what you're going to get, they're very much the box of chocolates team, aren't they, Fulham? But if you get them on a good day, then they can turn anybody over. So it's a difficult match. I found this a really difficult match to call. Liverpool, it's obviously a must-win. Fulham, free shot really at it. I don't want to back either side here. I can't categorically say I really fancy Liverpool or that I really fancy Fulham. I think that it's a difficult one to call. So I've turned to the bet builder. I commentated on the game at Anfield. Fulham was sensational, caused Liverpool all sorts of problems in that game with their running power, their attacking style of play. Should have won the game. They were 3-2 up, very close to the end of the game. Somehow ended up losing it 4-3 to Liverpool. And goals for me seem highly likely, absolutely likely. I think that it's a matchup where they'll both go for it. Home games for Fulham, 62% have gone over 2.5 this season. For Liverpool away games, 60% have gone over as well. Yeah, it's a game where I think both teams will just go at it. 2-2, if you remember, at the start of last season as well. Fulham games are often pretty lively at Craven Cottage because they're not defensive. They're not that way inclined, really. So yeah, I think it'll be a really, really good game to watch. So over 2.5 for me is locked in, and then it's like, what can I pair it with to make this a palatable bet? I'm not going to do both teams to score because Fulham could get nilled here. If Liverpool turn up and put in a professional performance. So I'm going to go down the Mark O'Hare corners route. Over 8.5 corners is my shout to go with over 2.5 goals. Why? Well, I've been looking at the numbers in six. Both teams are really high in terms of the corner count this season. Liverpool, for understandable reasons, put a lot of pressure on opponents, but Fulham are right up there as well. In home games, Fulham have produced 105 corners, which averages out at 6.5 corners a game for them at home, and Liverpool away from home average 6.33 corners. So add those together and you look at 12 to 13 corners. Well, I'm not going to do that, and that seems a bit excessive, but over 8.5 gets us in at about 1.86, 1.87 for the bet build. You could be braver and go over 9.5 corners. That takes us odds against as it happens, but I was just a little bit wary on that because it feels like 9 corners, 5 and 4, whatever, 6 and 3, but to go the one further just seemed a little bit excessive, so I've stuck on that.
Okay, over 2.5 goals, over 8.5 corners using the Matchbook Betting Exchange bet builder product available in the UK. That comes out at 186. Let's move on to EFL bets here, Adrian. Still a lot to play for. You've gone for a couple of selections here, so take it away.
Yeah, loads. This one's in League One. Cambridge United played Derby on Saturday afternoon, and Derby can gain promotion. They're currently in second spot. We saw Pompey win the league the other night, and Bolton are breathing down their necks. But if Bolton drop points and Derby win, they'll go up with a win. They certainly need to win the game just to stave off Bolton anyway. Cambridge United kind of need a point, I'd say, to survive, but they're struggling a little bit. It's been a slight revival under Gary Monk, but not amazing. They're a low-scoring team, Cambridge United. They've scored more than once in just 2 of their last 12 games. So you would fancy them to either have 0 or 1 here against a really solid Derby team managed by Paul Warne. The Abbey Stadium down there is home to just 2.05 goals per game, which is the 3rd lowest in League One. There have been a lot of tight, low-scoring affairs there this season. And just 2 of 21 home games have gone over 3.5 goals. So that's what I'm doing here. Derby to win and under 3.5 goals. So 19 of 21 matches at this stadium have gone under 3.5 this season. In terms of Derby's away games, only 6 of 22 have gone over this figure as well. So highly likely there'll be, under 3.5 goals. And with so much at stake, highly likely, I'd say, that Derby will win the game. They've, against bottom half sides this season, they've had 7 wins to 0. Pretty impressive. What they do, they go away from home, they win 1-0 or 2-0. That's kind of what Derby do. 9 clean sheets away to sides that are 12th or below. I think that's a phenomenal record for Derby this season, and that has been the bedrock of their promotion campaign. So yeah, I looked at Derby to win to 0, slightly better odds, but just to be safe in case Cambridge score, I'm going to go with Derby and under 3.5.
Okay, currently priced at 2.2. That's available in our normal markets on Matchbook. The second selection is up against Mark O'Hare's favourite League 2 team of the season, Barrow. He's tipped them in a lot of places, not just on this podcast, Adrian, but on his Matchbook Insights column as well. They're playing Doncaster in 9th, who are only within touching distance of the playoff spots here. So this is a playoff off, basically, 6 points.
Yeah. Mark will have mainly tipped Barrow at home, though. He wouldn't have tipped them very often on the road. Certainly not lately. They're 9 away games without a win, Barrow. There's not one away from home since December the 22nd. And this is a team that's in the playoffs. So, they're not great travellers. The reason they're still in the mix for promotion is that they're mega on their own turf. They very rarely drop points there. So why am I going to oppose Barrow here? Well, they're up against the form team in English football, Doncaster Rovers. Doncaster Rovers were marooned in the bottom half a few weeks ago, and now they have a playoff spot in their own hands. It's been ridiculous. 8 wins in a row. It's kind of Man City-esque what they've produced under Grant McCann across the last few weeks. All of their goal threats have been scoring goals. Molyneux, Delican, Rowe, Ironside, these guys have been in great form. 5 of those 8 wins have been clean sheet wins, and they have got massive momentum. They've scored more than 1 goal in 7 of those 8 wins as well. So it's not like they're grinding out 1-0ers. They're going 2s, 3s, 4s, and they're facing a Barrow team that aren't travelling well, and their form's been really patchy actually. Barrow, no wins in 4, and 3 losses in their last 4 as well. So for me, Barrow are clinging on a bit to a playoff place. If you look at the form book, Doncaster are head and shoulders above Barrow, and they're at home to Barrow here at odds against. So happy days as far as I'm concerned. 2.1. You've got to go with a side that has the momentum here, and it just feels like they're almost an unstoppable force at the moment, Doncaster. Typically, they'll probably lose now, but you've got to go on what you see and what we've seen of late, and they have been phenomenal. And really, I think they should be odds on to win this match based on Barrow's away form and their own form too.
Yeah, I like it. Let's lock it in. Doncaster home to Barrow, 2.1. Derby and under 3.5 goals in the game, 2.2 away to Cambridge. Long shots time. I might join you to add one in here to take Marco O'Hare's 20 quid, but we'll start with you, Adrian, if you want to take on Bristol Rovers at home to Peterborough.
Yeah, it's a funny one, this one. I mean, there's some quite appealing long shots right in the Premier League and across the EFL. I was looking at, West Brom at Leicester, big tension there, and you could get West Brom at over 6. And, there's a lot of prices that you can pick up. The Wolves one really at 9 was interesting. But I've gone to League One because Peterborough United secured their place in the playoffs in midweek. They have the faintest of faint chances of overtaking Bolton and Derby, but I don't believe that they believe they're going to drop enough points. So for me, Posh are in the playoffs, and they don't really have anything to play for this weekend, and that means that I wouldn't back them. I wouldn't touch them with the barge pole because I think there's often a feeling of even if it's subconscious of just taking your foot off the accelerator. Bristol Rovers had been in a really bad run under Matt Taylor. He's under pressure for his job, but they've won the last two, again, albeit against two teams towards the bottom end of the division, but they've won 2 on the spin, and I think they're going to keep on fighting for the manager. They want to end the season with decent momentum. They got nothing to play for. They're mid-table, Bristol Rovers. Posh will surely rotate a little bit, given that they've already booked their place in the playoffs. They're going to protect their star men a little bit, I think, between now and those playoff games. So it feels like a good time to oppose Peterborough, and Peterborough haven't been good defensively. 2 clean sheets in their last 14. So you'd have to fancy Bristol Rovers to score at least 1, possibly more than that on home turf. And I was looking at Rovers, even though they've had a sort of middling season, against the big boys at home, they've done well. Against the top 10 at home, they've played 9 and only got beaten on 3 occasions. So, yeah, this is the type of fixture Bristol Rovers tend to raise their game for. So, yeah, 6.4, you can get Bristol Rovers to win and over 2.5 goals. I'd say over 2.5 because Peterborough are involved in so many high-scoring games. You know, they don't have the most solid defence. As I've outlined, they do have goals in them. So, you know, I could see them scoring here, but maybe Bristol Rovers outscoring them. So that's where I'm going. Bristol Rovers and over 2.5.
Okay, we'll lock that in the long shot sections. That's Bristol Rovers and over 2.5 goals versus Peterborough. And just to, this was a price I just find too big when I was looking this morning. And when we were speaking about it, Adrian, it's a bet you put up 3 weeks ago when they were home to Bournemouth. It's Luton to win and both teams to score at 5.6. I do think Brentford getting their first win in 10 Premier League games gets the pressure off them a little bit. I know a win would almost certainly keep them safe, but I'm just expecting a massive performance from Luton. Look through their last few home results. They're always competitive, always scoring goals. And yeah, I just thought 5.6 was pretty big. And as a best bet, I'll put them up at double chance or plus half a goal on the Asian handicap line, 1.8. Those selections will be up on Matchbook Insights. But this is a game now that doesn't necessarily scream goals on the face of it, Adrian. So I want you to put together some of the numbers recently on these two teams.
Yeah, Crystal Palace. So yeah, but good shouts on Luton, by the way. I think that
big price. I thought
it's a good price, and they don't keep very many clean sheets. You know, they got so many defenders out, and it's a must-win really for Luton. So yeah, I think that's a decent pick. That I've got my best bet is Crystal Palace against West Ham over 2.5 goals, and both teams to score. It comes in at 1.96, which is not too bad. Now you're thinking Palace and West Ham, they're not exactly, the most thrilling sides on the planet. This fixture has a weird recent history at Selhurst Park. So last year it was 4-3 to Crystal Palace. Before that, we saw back-to-back 3-2 wins for West Ham at Selhurst Park. Before that, 2-1 Palace at home. And this bet has landed in 7 of the last 9 games where Palace have entertained West Ham. So it's got a history of goals. If you look at it in the current context, West Ham away games almost always feature both teams scoring. 75% of their matches on the road this season have seen them score and the opposition. And 81% of West Ham's away games have gone over 2.5. They've not been that dull away from home, in fairness to them, West Ham United. They've been involved in some decent matches. That's 13 of 16 away games have gone overs. So, and I can just see, with Palace kind of pretty much safe. I think they need one more win. Elise and Eze back fit and firing. West Ham needing the win for European football. They'll go for it as well. I don't, a draw doesn't really do them any favours, not with Newcastle's form of late anyway. So yeah, and you look at Palace at home, you think, well, are they really involved in that many high-scoring games? Well, 10 of 15 home games this season have seen both teams to score. So that's, for me, again, seems likely. And 60% of their home games have gone over 2.5. So, and Glasner, for me, is a slightly more positive coach than Roy Hodgson. So you mash it all in together, the history of the fixture, the state of play where both teams really want to win, just to sort of ease any nerves. I think this could be surprisingly exciting. I think West Ham might welcome Bowen back for the game. You know, Paqueta's available. Antonio's been in good form. As I said, as Elise back. Mateta's been in decent nick. So yeah, I see goals here. I do.
Okay.
Palace versus West Ham over 2.5, and both teams score.
Yeah, West Ham in action tonight against Leverkusen, and Paqueta is suspended for that, so he'll be fresh and raring to go, obviously, for that game on Sunday. So yeah, my thanks to Adrian. We will be back next week to preview the weekend's football action, and Mark O'Hare will be back joining myself and Adrian. But I enjoyed that, Adrian. We did okay.
We did all right. Yeah, it was just a good little chinwag. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too much. But yeah, I'm surprised we got to the 41-minute mark. But it's all good.
Yeah, a lot of dead wood in there.
Winners. Yeah, there's a few unusual shouts this week in terms of maybe backing against the favourites. But sometimes I like a little handicap shout because some of these games might be tighter than people expect.
Or backing a team that we're not necessarily haven't been on throughout the season, Manchester United, for example, Chelsea. So yeah, always keep your thoughts fluid when betting. But yeah, my thanks to Adrian. We'll be back next week. Enjoy the weekend's football. Check out insights.matchbook.com for a full recap of all the football bets and of course our horse racing bets, which will be up tomorrow. Until then, we'll chat to you next week. Bye-bye.